Today, we're gently exploring a topic that many find resonates deeply: anxious, preoccupied attachment.
That's right, Alex. And understanding its origins can really be the first step towards greater self-compassion and healing for many of our listeners.
Research into attachment, going back to the pioneering work of Mary Ainsworth and her colleagues, points to early life experiences with caregivers as fundamental in shaping how we relate to others and ourselves. For those who develop an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, certain patterns in caregiving are often observed.
One key factor that researchers have identified is various forms of maternal unresponsiveness. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean neglect in the way we often think of it, but rather a pattern where a caregiver's responses might be unpredictable or inconsistent.
Exactly. For instance, studies have shown that mothers of infants who later displayed this pattern, sometimes called ambivalent/resistant in infancy, tended to be less consistently responsive to their baby's crying or signals of distress. Their timing in responding could also often be poor.
If you imagine an infant entirely dependent on their caregiver, it makes sense. When responsiveness is inconsistent, it can be incredibly confusing. Sometimes the comfort comes, sometimes it doesn't, or it's significantly delayed. This unpredictability can foster a deep-seated sense of uncertainty about whether their fundamental needs will be met.
And observations in homes have further supported this. Mothers of such infants were sometimes found to only partially attend to them, perhaps due to frequent multitasking, like doing household chores while simultaneously trying to hold the baby. This can easily lead to the infant not feeling fully seen or truly attended to. Some studies also found these mothers could be generally unresponsive and underinvolved.
Another really important finding in this area relates to misattunement. Researchers like Haft and Slade, for example, found that mothers who themselves had anxious preoccupied tendencies often showed what they termed a variable response pattern to their infants.
And they also noted a pattern of pervasive misattunement to both positive and negative emotional displays from the infant. This misattunement was reportedly far more pronounced than in mothers of secure or even dismissing infants.
It can get even more specific with what are called selective misattunements. This means the caregiver might consistently miss or ignore certain types of the baby's expressions, particularly those related to their exploratory efforts or their expressions of exuberance and joy during free play. They might either totally ignore these kinds of expressions or misattune to them.
That's such a crucial point. And interestingly, the same research indicated that these caregivers sometimes seemed more attracted to expressions of fear in their babies. One subject, for instance, who was unresponsive to her baby's expressions of negativity or initiative, had her moments of greatest attunement during reunion when the baby was clearly frightened.
It's not hard to see how this could inadvertently teach the infant that expressing fear is a primary, or perhaps one of the few reliable ways to achieve that feeling of intersubjective union with their mother. We also see that caregivers who are themselves anxious in the context of parenting may unintentionally spill their own uncertainties and anxieties onto their infants. They might become anxious, for example, at their own inability to understand their baby's persistent requests for definition or comfort.
And researchers Mary Main and Main and Weston pointed out another crucial aspect, an over-involving style of parenting. In healthy development, a caregiver is attuned to the child's state of mind, helps regulate the child's emotions, and encourages their exploration.
But in an over-involving style, this healthy pattern can be reversed. The parent might be insufficiently attuned to the child's inner world and instead engage the child more in the parent's own state of mind and emotional needs.
As a consequence of this, the child may learn to become hypervigilant to the parent's needs and emotional state rather than their own. This is often what's referred to as an outside-in orientation, where the individual privileges perceived outside information, like the parent's or later a therapist's state, for determining their own responses, rather than looking inward to their own feelings and needs.
So, when a caregiver frequently misses the child's emotional experiences, they don't consistently provide that essential contingent soothing when the child is upset. This, as you can imagine, can interfere with the child's ability to develop skills for regulating their own emotions.
And as a result, the child, and later the adult, may experience chronic anxiety or even anger. This lack of attunement, coupled with that learned hypervigilance to the caregiver state, can also hinder the child's exploratory play. That play is so vital for self-development and even for metacognitive development, our ability to think about our own thinking.
This can ultimately leave the anxious, preoccupied adult with underdeveloped self-awareness, an impaired reflective capacity, and a significant vulnerability to high levels of anxiety or anger.
It's so important to emphasize, as Alex mentioned at the start, that understanding these origins isn't about assigning blame. It's about recognizing the complex interplay of early experiences and how they can shape current patterns of relating and feeling.
Absolutely. And that recognition truly opens the door to self-compassion. It also informs the pathways to healing, which often involve learning to develop that inside-out orientation, tuning in to one's own authentic experience, and perhaps experiencing consistent, genuine attunement from another, maybe for the very first time.
Thank you for joining us on your podcast for this exploration. We hope it offers some helpful insights.
And as always, remember to be gentle with yourself on your journey.